Hello everybody, welcome to the Austrian Styrian Mountains and the small city of Spielberg in this beautiful landscape just north of the Mur River. Only 5,000 inhabitants, one of the 9 cities of the Katastralgemeinde, the first mention of Spielberg back 900 years BC. It's known now for Spielberg Castle and of course the Red Bull Ring.
We're here at the starting grid of the 12 hours of Red Bull Ring with 34 cars on the track. It's the very first race of here in Austria, but it's the third round of the 12H series.
This challenging circuit was built in 1969. We called it the Österreichring back then. Nowadays the track is used for Formula 1, DTM and the latest addition to the 24-hour series powered by Hankook.
We are really enjoying it here at the Red Bull Ring, and in the very first schedule we didn't have Red Bull Ring in it. We changed it afterwards because the Monza wasn't available this year, which we plan to do in upcoming years. And we had the option to do a race in Red Bull Ring as well, which we really wanted to do but which didn't fit in the calendar. And that made us decide to take it this year in the calendar.
Friday's qualifying was divided into 2 parts. The first for the faster classes, A6, 991, SPX and SP2. And for the second part of the qualifying, it was the SP3 GT4 cars, TCR, Cup 1, A2, A3 and D1, all trying to set their fastest times to get as far up the grid as they can.
The qualification was very good. We stand in the class at first position and overall at 12. It's very nice, the car was very good to drive. We have small problems in the qualification because I have a lot of problems with the track limits. But in the end it's very well.
Qualifying not only about setting lap times, also has tactical considerations.
Yeah, we had a really good qualifying. I had a really good lap towards the end of the qualifying with completely empty fuel. Everything on point, and we're in second position, a good starting point for the race. Just on the limit with fuel is perfect for qualification because you want to be as light as possible at the end. So we timed everything perfectly.
Not everyone's qualifying was flawless.
We could have had more in the pace, there's more in the car, but obviously getting the tyres warm, braking, we had to change the brake bias on the front a little bit because obviously the new tyres changes the balance of the car. But yeah, good stint. I mean, in the last lap of the stint, I made a little mistake, trying to push too hard because through the radio I thought it was saying 2 tenths behind on pole. So yeah, I was pushing really hard on the final turn. Went a bit wide, hit one of the big sausage yellow curbs. Yeah, and it broke the back wishbone and damper. Yeah, of course, yeah, it's just it's a 12-hour race, so you just got to stay off the curbs. I mean, they're quite bad round here if you go offline. It's not the actual curves themselves, it's if you go, track limits, off track limits. I mean, there's some big curbs. If you hit them, yeah, it causes damage.
Fastest time overall set by the number 11 Ferrari of the Scuderia Praha team. That doesn't mean the race is all over.
The qualification was good. We made the second pole in the second race. So we are happy to do it, to be here. But the race will be 12 hours or 24 hours, so pole position is good for me, but it's not enough for the team.
This is a 2-part race, the first part getting underway at 2:15 in the afternoon. The drivers set to get their foot to the floor and the team's confident about the race.
Our goal is to have a class win, absolutely. We want to go for the top podium position in SP2. But first you have to make the clean race and finish with it without having any troubles, and that will be tough enough.
Endurance racing is all about getting the car to do long distance with reliability. It's the ultimate test for the machinery.
I think the race we would like to start very well, and after 3.5 hours and today that we are on position 1, because tomorrow we have also 8 hours to drive and it's not a problem.
For those moved to a faster class, it changes the nature of your competition. The cars will be quicker and the drivers more professional.
We are now in the pro category 9 cars with us. Honestly, I don't know. This afternoon we will drive only 3 hours and a half. I think maybe it will be possible to finish in the first, I hope, 6 cars. And then, but what will happen tomorrow, honestly, no idea.
Lots can happen in a 12-hour race. It's impossible to predict. Almost anything can happen.
Well, we hope. You know that a 12-hour race is nothing to be in the pole position. It's a matter of your pace that you have to manage during all the race. So, we'll try, but you can never assure that in a 12-hour race.
The race expectation is to drive all the 12 hours with the car, not to crash the car, not too many standings in the box, so just to have a fun and to have a competition to each other, all the drivers in the team.
My final thoughts of the beginning of this race, I wish everybody lots of fun and that everybody keeps safe and is driving carefully.
The lights are out, 3.5 hours counting down on the circuit clock for the first leg of the Hankook 12 Hours of the Red Bull Ring. It's 3 and 4 abreast as the cars go through the first right-hander on the circuit, quite a few of them needing to use the runoff area.
I was on the left side next to the Lamborghini and on the inside the Porsche, so to avoid a crash I decided to go wide in the first corner. Yeah, it was not bad, or it was not the best position for the first corner, but still okay.
And with a total of 12 hours still to go, there's ample time to make up for any lost positions. 27 teams and 35 cars in the race. That's 115 racing drivers here at the Austrian track. Not all of them have a trouble-free start of the race, but luckily it's not disastrous for anyone.
I think in the second lap I had a spin in the first corner. Then we were of course at the back, and I had much fun in overtaking the cars in front of me, and it was very motivating, and so we managed to get to first place again at the end.
Robert Renard in the number 911 is working his way forward. Goes past Jordan Groger in the 27. That's now 4th overall for the Porsche. Matteo Malicelli claiming the lead early in the race and increases the gap to second position. Holds on to his advantage even when lapping the other classes. The Red Bull Ring has a lot of straights, which suits the Scuderia Praha Ferrari, which perhaps is better in a straight line than it is through the corners. Less fortunate, the 222 of HTM Racing.
Yeah, we had a problem with the drive shaft. It disconnected. It was not broken, but the drive shaft disconnected from the joint. We repaired that and now it's okay.
To create a safe environment on the track for the recovery marshals, a code 60 is called. This neutralises the race. The cars can't overtake and must keep to 60 kilometres an hour. Well, 60 is the maximum that they should be going.
I had a problem with the first code 60 because I had a car in front of me that going only 55. So the Porsche behind me came back, and when we restart, he can overtake me because he was better on warming tires.
Robert Lucas takes the lead in the black and green Porsche of Team Porsche Racing powered by Olymp, but the 11 Ferrari stays close behind. With 7 different classes throughout the grid, there are battles right through the field. All of them could be important for class positions.
Yeah, everything was going good. Good laps, good time. And we were on the first place. And then there was a Seat, and he bumped me into the front wheel, and it was over.
The team needed over an hour to get the Lotus Evora back on track. 11 Ferrari continuing to pressure the 29 Porsche. The Scuderia Praha car finds a gap and passes. Great overtaking.
Yeah, but it was a hard fight, but it was fair. So it was funny for me, I think funny for him.
Already reliability is hitting some of our entrants. Often it's just a bit of bad luck that sets you back down the field. But in this form of endurance racing, the track doesn't really thin out because the teams can get the cars back into the race. And the 46 team working hard to get their machine back into the action.
Yeah, first everything was fine and okay, and the car was running quite good. And then we had a problem with the drive shaft. We changed the drive shaft.
And in less than 20 minutes, the car was back on track with the new drive shaft fitted. 964 Grasser Racing Lamborghini going past the 24 to lap it. And here's the standings after the first 2 hours. The Scuderia Pra Ferrari hasn't been able to hold on to the lead. It is the 964 Lamborghini Huracan of GRT Grasser who is in the top spot. Just 5 seconds back is the number 11 Ferrari, but still on the lead lap, the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche. They're third overall. In A6 AM, it's Hofer Racing leading, the number 1 Mercedes ahead of the number 32 Audi in second. The GRT Grasser Lamborghini 963 also on that lead lap in third position. The Porsche 991 class is a really close battle at the head of the field with MSG Motorsport and their 92 car just 5.2 seconds ahead of the 85 of Pro Speed Performance. Force Racing, powered by Olymp, have a lap to catch up with their 81 Porsche in third. 2 hours down, still 10 to go at the Red Bull Ring. The layout of the Spielberg circuit has been modified several times since it was built. Originally as the Österreich Ring, then the A1 Ring, now the Red Bull Ring. It's a track for all sorts of events. Formula One first came here in 1970, and here in 2017 it's hosting the Creventic 24-hour series powered by Hankook.
When you look at it on video games or on in-car footage, you don't get a sense of how much elevation changes here. There's a lot of elevation change, which makes it fun. And even though it's known as a wide open, high-speed track, it's quite technical also. I mean, that's where the time is made, is in the technical parts.
A huge variety of series and car types use this track, which makes it attractive to the spectators. But what makes this track so interesting for the drivers?
It's very easy to race, I would say. It's long straight, so it's time to relax a bit. I like the track a lot, especially the last 2 corners are quite tricky, and you have to be focused to drive there quite well.
The Red Bull Ring here in Austria is one of my favorite tracks. It's really, really fast. It's very technic. In the middle sector, we have very quick corners and hard braking zones in the first sector. So it's a lot of variation. It looks easy, but actually it's really hard to be quick all the time. Every lap you have to push to the limit to be fast, and that makes it very special.
I was born 20 minutes from here. I happen to live 30 minutes from here, so it's my home track, and I won the Porsche Super Cup race 2 years ago. I'm a home track, so I know the track very well, and I love it. Especially since the circuit got resurfaced 2 years ago, it's very nice.
Yeah, we love. We knew it since long time. My brother used to race and win here in Formula 3000. I think he won in GT Open a couple years ago. Yeah, great track, great track. We need a 24-hour race here.
Red Bull Ring is one of the nicest tracks I know. I've done about 108 tracks in my life, and I like it here very much. Also the atmosphere, everything, the building, the garage, everything is up and top, and I think the Austrian people have to be very proud to have a circuit like this.
Seems everyone is very happy to race at the Red Bull Ring. We're into the last 90 minutes of competition on this first day of racing. As with many venues, we're not allowed to race the full 12 hours in one go due to noise regulations. With the hills here, the sound reverberates all the way through the valley. And that's why Creventic has split the race into 2 parts, making the second part of the race as long as possible. As we're racing in Austria, we can't ignore the Stuck family. Warschau-born mountain king Hans Stuck won his first race in 1923 and post-war started racing for Austria. His son, Hans-Joachim Stuck, born in Germany, took over the honours, and now his sons, born back in Austria, Ferdinand and Johannes, continue the family tradition in the KTM crossbow.
So here we have the KTM crossbow GT4, an SP2 class specification. It's a really nice car to drive. We're lacking some top speed on the straights, but we're fast in the corners, so it will be a tough fight with the Porsche in our class. Let's see what happens.
But sadly, earlier than expected, the crossbow number 46 has to bow out of the race.
Yeah, we had a little contact in the beginning of the race after pole position and lead in our class. We had to change the drive shaft, and a couple of laps later we had some damage which resulted from that contact. We're not sure exactly what it is, but it stopped us from racing.
Fact that the runoff areas have been upgraded is very handy for the Mercedes-Benz of Hofer Racing.
I was just too late on the brakes, and I thought, okay, it's not enough space to turn around, so I took the roundabout.
That lost Hofer their class lead, and now they've got a new battle on their hands. It's like battles all over the circuit, including at the head of the field. The 964 Grasser Lamborghini currently leading the race, but Daniel Allemann in the number 911 Porsche is pushing hard trying to take that position. Meanwhile, the 92 MSG Porsche in the pits with problems.
We were running at first place after recovering from second with one unscheduled box, and now I think there's a problem with the steering rack. And there's some hydraulic fluid leaking from the front of the car, so the guys now fix it. They've done it in under 15 minutes, I think, so it should be back in the game and back in the P1 as we expect. So
the weather now throws in another challenge for the drivers. Some parts of the track wet, other parts still dry. Impossible to avoid the raindrops, and sometimes difficult to avoid other cars.
Until now, everything went very well. The first driver did a good stint, the second kept his place. He was going up on second place, but it was the second time he was hit by the KTM GT4. And why I think the driver in the other car is a little bit too eager. He wants to pass them on certain places where it doesn't work. So now he has a problem with the water leak and we have a problem with bodywork. But it's not at that bad a moment, so we're going to take the penalty. And we're going to repair and check all the suspension for the next race tomorrow. So.
Now, the penalty that was being referred to there is the penalty for working overnight when the cars should be left alone in Parc Fermé. The 109 Audi had been suffering from suspension problems and now needs to be towed out the gravel. The race very close to the end of its first part, with the 963 A6 AM car leading its class. The sister car, the 964, challenging race leader Alfred Renard in the number 911. A slight mistake from Alfred on the slippery track. Christian Engelhardt takes advantage and goes back into the lead just before the checkered flag is shown for this first portion of the 12 hours of the Red Bull Ring powered by Hankook. It's not unusual for 12-hour races in the 24-hour series powered by Hankook to be split into two parts. When it happens, the races are held over 2 days.
The first part of the race is finished. It was quite exciting finish of today. The first two cars were lapping each other in the last round. They were only 2 seconds behind each other. As you can see behind me, all the cars are positioning on the starting grid for Parc Fermé. And stay there until tomorrow morning, and tomorrow we will start for the second part of the Hankook 12 hours Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, it was interesting to be 2 hours in the car. It's always nice. Quite a lot of traffic, so it's nice. We had some yellow flags, some code 60 zones, so there was traffic jam a little bit at the fuel station, but this makes endurance racing interesting, and that's why we are all here.
Well, it got a little exciting there in the end. It's actually quite a bit wetter on the back of the track than it is up front here. So the cars were throwing a bit of a spray, got a little bit slick, and of course we're all on race tires with rather than rain tires, so that makes it a little trickier. But fortunately, it was only for the last 10 or 15 minutes, so I think we all managed through pretty well. I was proud of the group for not just having a mass crash out there on the wet track with slick tires.
And for the top competitors, it was really close until the checkered flag ended the first part of the race.
Yeah, the end of the race was pretty exciting, I think. The top cars, all in 10 seconds, the top three. So really exciting finish also for the spectators looking in front of the live stream. So we're happy to finish P1, and Rolf did a great job out there when it started to rain to pass again for the lead. Really happy about that.
Tomorrow, we'll be back, part 2.
Yeah, tomorrow we have over 8 hours to drive, and yeah, for sure I have to drive second time both cars, and yeah, we will see.
So the cars are pushed back into the positions they will start in tomorrow, but not before the fire crew have checked all of the vehicles.
After the car stopped on the starting grid, there were quite a few firemen looking around. Nothing happened, but it's just a safety procedure, so they are checking all cars and because they're all hot, and they're checking if everything is okay and safe for tomorrow.
After After 3.5 hours of racing, the gaps are not about seconds but laps, as tomorrow morning the cars will restart with only those lap differences showing on the timing monitor. This means that the 964 Lamborghini, the 911 Porsche and the 11 Ferrari all start on the same lap with the seconds wiped away. The SP3 GT4, the Bezoplas Racing, has an incredible 9 laps over the 221 of RTR Projects. Further 5 laps back, the Seika 222 of HTM Racing. In SP2, Porsche Lorient Racing will start the second day of the Hankook 12H of the Red Bull Ring with a 3-lap lead. Now they'll keep those laps ahead, but B2F loses their 24-second lead back to third, the 58 of VGS Racing Adventures. So let's just underline the situation at the end of the first day. The teams have had no opportunity to re-prepare the car. It was in Parc Fermé overnight, so they'll start with the fuel and tyres they had when the checkered flag came out for the first part.
You know, for this moment we will start in third position, but on the same lap. I think we have less fuel than the other competitors in front of us, and also finished tyres. But you know, we start on the same lap, and we have to do 8 hours and a half. So we'll see.
Yeah, we're really good starting position now, first row. So yeah, beautiful weather. A little bit wet here at the start-finish line, so could be difficult for the first laps. But I expect we have a good race today.
Most of the classes still pretty close to each other, and it looks promising for some good racing in this second part of the Hankook 12H of the Red Bull Ring.
We are number 3 on the classification at the moment in the class we are running, and I hope to go up in that classification in the day. Well, I hope due to the sky, blue sky, we expect good weather, but it seems to be in Austria possible to get rain with the blue sky, so we are just very surprised, but I hope it gets better, and we seems to get a dry way, so it will be safe.
The second start grid, second start of the race, and yesterday we closed with some rain. This morning we have some drizzle again, but still nice and sun, and I think it will go away, and we're ready to go.
As the teams are getting ready to start the race again, some of them have minor damage.
I don't know exactly. It happens during the race. Yeah, we don't touch anybody, so I don't know why, but now we fixed it during the race, so everything is ready for the second part.
Actually, I see that the car is a bit damaged here behind the rear wheel, so I'm not sure if the car is able to drive 8 hours, just talking about. But I hope the car can drive 8 hours.
And those cars that needed work overnight are back, but with penalties.
We have a 10-lap penalty, I guess. So yeah, we had a second place, I think, in SP2. Now we are far back, but we will try to come back again.
Unfortunately, one team is not able to start due to some damages, and that is the 46 True Racing team.
The lights are out for the second time this weekend, and the leader from yesterday, the 964 Lamborghini, is today's pole sitter and holds firmly onto that lead at the first corner. There are some similarities with the start and the first lap from the first part of the race yesterday, but one of the things that's distinctively different are the tactics. The number 11 Ferrari, third overall, has come in for fuel and tyres after just 3 laps. One thing that does stay the same, you have to keep your focus.
Yeah, I had a slight problem. I was going under my target time, and I was discussing with the team on the radio, and then I came to a corner and I realized I was turning in a little bit too late, and when I turned in, the back came and I got a spin and stuck in the gravel.
The unfortunate Saka couldn't get out of the gravel under its own power and needed the assistance of the marshals. In the resulting Code 60, it's like rush hour in the pit lane. Cars go for some fuel and new Hankook rubber, and because the cars had to start in the state they were after yesterday's 3.5 hours racing, some of them also need new brake discs or pads.
I had to check the brake pads because he was complaining about the brakes. So I didn't want to take any risk. Because, you know, in racing, the brakes are one of the most important things. So he was complaining, I said, let him come in anyway. Perhaps we're going to lose 10, 20 seconds, but it doesn't matter. So now we are full, I'm sure about the brakes. The other one can go for 1 hour and a half.
It's a tribute to the organisers Creventic that many teams and drivers come back. Drivers and team members have improved their performance with the experience that they've built up in Creventic events over the last few years.
It's beautiful. It's a project from 3 to 4 years now, and we're getting better and better and better. And now it's really nice to race this car. It's really nice.
The variety of cars in the field have different characteristics in performance. Every track we go to has a different configuration, so it makes sense that some cars are better suited to a particular circuit than others.
If we have some cars like the Porsche in front of us, it's difficult to us to overtake, because in the straight we are a bit slower, but we are faster in the corners. So it's difficult for us. It's really better for me to make my pace if I'm alone, but also fighting is good.
Endurance racing is all about being smart when passing and when being passed. Sometimes that doesn't go to plan.
I was chasing the Ginetta, and at the end of the straight, the Ginetta outbraked himself, go off the track. I just normally made my corner, and when he was rejoining the track, he touched me at the back of the car.
And if there's two drivers involved, there'll be two different views.
Moved out the way to let two faster Porsches through, and I think the Seika probably turned in too quickly or oversteered or didn't brake enough and hit me very hard, which unfortunately cost us another 30 minutes in the pits.
And we're back under green flag conditions. Welcome back to Pfister Racing. The series represents for them an ideal opportunity to improve the driving skills of their team.
We are located in Germany, and we are racing in several series. Some, for example, ETCC European Touring Car Cup. And we also develop young drivers to become a racing license. So it's for gentlemen drivers and for young racers. It's the right place in our team.
There's always a little bit of rivalry within the squad. Each driver wants to set a better time than their friends, and when you're in the same car, that should give you the same opportunity as your co-drivers, at least if the car stays in the same condition.
We had problem with alarms, we had oil pressure alarm, and in the end, after 15 laps, engine just stopped, and now we are changing the engine for completely another one. We lose a lot of time, but we won't fight again. Maybe, you know, it's a long distance race, so maybe in the few hours everything can change again, so we are keep fighting and we look forward.
An engine failure is disastrous for your hopes for a good finish. A brake failure is disastrous to your car.
We don't know exactly what happened. Jiri was in the car, my teammate, and he just went straight. He crashed to the barrier when he was overtaking, so now we need to really check what happened. He said that the car was more or less fine, but it looked like there was a little issue on the brakes. But, well, we need to check now on the data what really happened.
The Scuderia Praha number 11, one of the favourites, but out of the race at the halfway mark. After 6 hours, the Porsche 991 GT3R number 911 of Herbeth Motorsport leads by a single lap. The GRT Grasser Lamborghini number 964 is second, and third overall is the best of the A6 AM cars. That's another Grasser Lamborghini, the 963. The two Team Altran Peugeots are leading the TCR class. The 908, 2 laps ahead of the 308 sister car, and third in class, the Speed Factory number 109. The Seat Leon Super Copa number 150 of Pfister Racing Team is literally in a class of its own. That's the A3 category. They've completed 160 laps. That's nearly 27 laps per hour. What more dramas will we see in the second half? Every track has its own peculiarities and characteristics. The Red Bull Ring has long, fast straights leading into slower corners. This is really hard on the brakes.
If you compare with other tracks that we used driving, of course they brake a lot, so they go in one corner, they go to second gear. I think they arrive over 200 and they go to 80 or something, so that is a big problem for the brakes.
Most teams are prepared to change the brake pads and possibly even the discs, But for some teams, it's been an unexpected change.
I mean, it's only 12 hours race, let's say only, but we could already see that the other teams were changing the brake pads, which usually you should make it on one brake pads through all the 12 hours race. So it's really hard because you have kind of a not really long not really long straights, and then there is a big braking, then it's a straight again and again big braking, and it's like 3 times, one by one. And it's really overheating the brake system and the brake discs and the brake pads. So this is something that is really, really important here to keep the brakes at least in a reasonable conditions.
We have a new car. Here it's a new track. We don't know about this track, but the only thing we knew that it was very hard for brakes and very easy regarding tires. And this is what we experimented. No tire wear, but a lot of brake wear. And we have no more rear pads because normally we don't change rear pads, and we change already 2 times per car. So no more parts. So we will finish with no rear brakes. It's a new experience for my drivers.
I have to be honest, we had some problems too. But I think our brakes would, especially the brake discs, they wouldn't have a problem. But we have to use another compound of the brake pads the next time. So we had a too aggressive compound on the pads, and that also kills the discs. So, but for the next time we know it.
It's very hard on brakes, yeah. You all go down to like 60, 80 kilometers an hour from 220 till 60, 80. So it's a lot of braking, but we don't know why it cracked. It's strange because I think overnight or something happened, and luckily we saw it, that it was cracked, otherwise you don't even notice, and then the disc will explode and then you have another problem.
Moral of the story is you can never bring too many brake pads with you. You always want your driver to be able to slow down when heading towards a corner at high speed. Into the second half of the race, as the number 27 passes the number 1 in the A6 AM class. That puts the Mercedes AMG just a lap behind the Renault RS01 of GP Extreme. The United Arab Emirates will be delighted with that position. It's not a successful start to the second half of the race for French team Porsche Lorient Racing. They collide with the 65 True Racing KTR.
So Pascal Gibon did a really good stint with the 65. We were 4 in the SP2, so that was really great for us. But 2 laps before to finish his stint, he got an accident with another car, which we had to do a mechanical intervention. We lost 56 minutes.
Proudly wearing the number 1 as last year's champions, Hofer Racing Mercedes-Benz. But in this race, they're not as high in the A6 AM class as we might have expected.
Well, yesterday has been a good first part of the race. Today we're having some trouble. I don't know, we're a little bit far behind, but we're still pushing the car as well. So now for the last hours, we try our best and push.
Chantel Kroll is behind the wheel of the number 1. She's trying to find a way to make back the lap they trail on the leader in category, the 963 Lamborghini. That's going to be very difficult indeed, much to the delight of the GRT team.
Yeah, I think now we have a good position. We are in the 3rd position for total, and number 1 for our catch, yeah. And so we think, we hope we can bring it home this place.
The Grasser team also has their sister car in the A6 Pro class battling for the overall lead, so maybe it's the best bet for a team to enter more than 1 car.
We got 2 cars, so that is good, because with the 64 we are fighting for the first place, so that is very nice. This is a good revenge for us, because at the 12 hours of Mugello we broke the 2 cars, so this is really good if we can do a podium with 1 car in the 12 hours of Red Bull Ring.
But there's never a guarantee that both cars, if indeed either, will get to the finish, as the GRT 964 running second overall hits problems.
Well, we had a really good race till the beginning. After the break, we were still in the lead. All was going very well, but then we had a sudden engine problem, and the engine broke in the end. So it's unhappy, but it's racing. It's what can happen. We all know that this is a risk that we do. The engines are all on the limit, and yeah, this time we had a failure on us.
And all the driver can do is wait to see how long it takes for the team to get the car back out on track. But for the 964 Lamborghini, the race was over. Racing on a circuit means sticking to the rules. If on the motorway you cross a solid line, you might get a fine. If you go over track limits on a circuit, you'll get penalised. The big difference is there are far more marshals looking out for offences here than there are traffic police on the roads.
We were a bit plagued by track limits. We got a few penalties because of that. Well, track limits, it's really in the name. It's you have to stick within the track limits of the circuit, and it's just that some stewards perhaps have a different sort of leeway on where the track limits might be. So it's not just us; also other teams and from other categories suffered quite a few track limit penalties. So, but basically, you're not allowed to leave the track with more than 2 wheels of the car. It depends from corner to corner as well, so it's a bit tricky to really clarify and justify where are the track limits and how it's meant to be driven.
It's perfect racing conditions, not too hot, not too cold, a dry track, and no sunlight to blind the drivers. Enough cars to have a great race, but not too many to bring problems. Let's see what the last couple of hours have done to the standings. For Herbeth Motorsport, keeping the lead now, more a priority about keeping the car going and less about super fast times by the drivers. With the 964 Grasser Lamborghini out of the race, it's their sister 963 car in second, another A6 AM car, Car Collection Motorsport, third position for the 34 Audi. Pro Sport Performance leads the 991 class. Their number 85 Porsche has a 3-lap lead over MSG Motorsport, who have second and third with their 93 and 92 cars. The 233 Besserplas Audi, a 14-lap leader over second place, the number 221 of RTR Projects. Third place, Ginetta number 231 of Optimum. It's important that the drivers and mechanics can step away from the pit box, have some rest and relaxation during the race.
Yeah, the Grasser Racing team has really a phenomenal hospitality. It's great for us here to have a warm place when it's so cold here at the Red Bull Ring during these days. We don't have so many guests here this weekend, but we do have a lot of guests during our other racing weekends normally. So it's normally pretty full.
The hospitality units can have a double function.
We have like 2 stages. On the bottom level is the hospitality with food and drinks, and on the top level we have meeting rooms for the engineers to sit down with the drivers, etc.
Hospitality boxes are a perfect opportunity to create a bond with the team members and also to speak with your guests. But not every team has a hospitality box.
No, it is not usually for each team because it is very expensive to have this hospitality, and we are involved with this with very much other competitions like Blancpain Series and the GT Masters, the German GT Masters, and in this case we need this hospitality very much.
Austrian teams are on home ground and expect cheering from the spectators.
We are the Austrian team, so basically we have a lot of guests in Austria. It's a home race for the team, a home race for many other drivers who are in the car now. So it should be a big day for all of us and to fight on the home track and to get as much out of the cars and out of the drivers and make a good result.
Local teams and drivers will have guests coming to visit. Catering for guests in the pit garage is also an option.
Well, we have a nice buffet here, and yes, we have many guests, local guests as well, because not only me, but the other driver, Philipp Sager, as well, he's a local. So we have, I would say, a dozen of local fans or spectators here, I would say, and the team is also based an hour from here, so it's really our home race.
With the 964 out of the race, everyone else moves up a spot. The 34 Car Collection now in the overall top 3, courtesy of some good driving stints.
Yes, that was a very nice stint, and I had a full gas tank, so I could stay out long, and that's what made it us to the second place. So the times I could make was 1:34 and a little bit, so not under. So it was very constant. So that it's what counts when driving long distance here.
And when the gentlemen drivers in the A6 AM car are going quicker than the pros, a switch of class sounds like a good move.
Yeah, we are thinking of going maybe to the Pro-Am class or to professional class. We will discuss this after this race, and it's a lot to talk about in the team. So if we gain time and are faster, then of course we're looking forward in the Pro-Am or Pro class.
Early on in the race, car 109 was battling their issues and gremlins, but regardless, the team are still smiling.
It was a miracle to be back in this morning in track. The team has been working all the night. So good, but this morning we have also travel, and we have to do the first two stints. We have to check a lot of things, and we have to stop to change also our suspension arm. But now, after 2 or 3 hours, the car begins to behave okay, and we'll be back in racing.
Series regulars Team Ultran have dominated the TCR class with their new Peugeot 308s. The team very happy with the car's maiden outing. No big issues for them.
Did not expect such a big wear in our pads. We have an issue with the fuel tank. We cannot fill it. We can fill only 80 liters instead of 100. Some connectics. Oh, new course problems. Nothing bad. The car is very nice, very nice.
Other teams have overcome more serious issues that troubled their race earlier.
I think at the moment it's going quite well for us. We had a tough start with some gearbox problem already in the first stint in the start. So we lost 20 laps staying in the box in the beginning of the race. So that was a tough start. But since then we worked our way through up the field, and at the moment we are P12. And the pace looks quite strong all the time, so we're working on it.
IDEC Sport Racing's Mercedes-Benz AMG GT has gone hard into the barrier. The driver unharmed, the car not so much.
We have a brake problem for sure. AMG and our team are under investigation about this problem. But the driver pressed the brake very hard, and no answer of the brake. The car go fast on the wall.
The standings in the 7 classes are beginning to show what we might expect of the final results. We've got categories where the top 2 cars are separated by 11 laps, but in SP2, only a single lap between B2F Competition and Porsche Lorient Racing in first and second. In A6 Pro, the Porsche 29, second in class, trying to make the next 2 hours count. Team owner Cor Oyser has called it a day for the 70 Lotus. The car has had just too many issues.
We had an accident yesterday with the Seat, which took a front wheel off. We lost about 28 laps for that. This morning we checked the car and we saw a crack in the brake disc, which we have to replace at a code 60 schedule. Then we were running fine again. And in the end, the engine started to misfire, and it bent the valve, so we are done.
Let's have a look at those who are still competing. With 2 hours to run, it's the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche in the lead. Second, the GRT Grasser number 963 Lamborghini. New to the top 3, the yellow number 27 of GP Extreme. The rest of the top 9, nothing like what it was 2 hours ago, so the next 120 minutes could still count for overall positions. B2F Competition now first in SP2 class with their number 35 Porsche, only a single lap behind the Porsche Lorient number 64. In third, and slightly more secure, the 58 Mark Focus of VDS Racing Adventures. In TCR, the 308 Team Ultran Peugeot has got ahead of its sister 908 car. The 109 Audi of Speed Factory Racing is third. When you buy a new race car, it's normally in plain white. So then you need a designer to make the car pop. This weekend, we have some interesting liveries.
The livery is the Smurf, because 1958 was the year Peugeot start to draw the first Smurf. And the Smurf is also a film which is now in the cinema, in the big screens, last week in Belgium. And Panini launched also a collection of stickers around the Smurfs.
So why the Smurfs on the 58 car?
Well, first of all, we are just advertising, like a normal advertising, and next week in Spa-Francorchamps we are distributing 3,000 free albums to all the children there will be around.
Most often the livery is there to showcase a sponsor. Sometimes the livery has nothing to do with sponsorship at all.
It's German, it means thank you Wim. Wim is our boss, or the owner of HEP. And we want to give him a thanks prize with a sticker because he gave us a chance to do racing in Blancpain on 24 Hours Nürburgring, BLN, Creventic and GT Masters. So we had a good result last weekend in Mugello. So we just want to thank him for that we have the chance to work for him. We have the equipment, the cars and the crew to do the results we had last week and continue the next 10 seasons, hopefully we're winning championships. So we put the sticker on the car instead of sponsor, just to say thank you.
The maximum single stint time in the Hankook 12H of the Red Bull Ring is 2 hours, which means the teams are putting their final drivers in to go to the checkered flag. That also means the drivers getting out have ended their race.
It was a really good stick. It was a nice one, a long one, 2 hours, and it was a nice one. We have a few problems with the brakes, so I had to pump the brakes down the straight, so it was a little confused, but we managed. It was good. Yeah.
Driver squads here range in size from 2 to 5 drivers. Fewer drivers means more time on the track, but if you absolutely have to have more time on the circuit, there's an additional option. Enter in 2 cars.
I'm driving this year also the Porsche Super Cup with a Cup car, and I don't want to have too much feeling in the GT3 car. Then I switch the cars, and every time I have to go back a little bit to the Cup. To go back in the GT3 car, it's okay, because the car has more downforce and better brakes, it's easier to get in. I'll go back to the Cup. I need few laps to get used to, but yeah, this is what makes me stronger, and we do it.
The number 911 Porsche is still leading and has been dominant for the majority of the race. Most teams are into their last stint, so we'll be thinking of the checkered flag. But even this late in the race, you're never sure you're going to get to the end.
Well, we had a bad crash yesterday in practice and it ripped off the suspension pickup point on the gearbox. We managed to repair them, but it failed one time again, the previous reparation we did, and now we see that it's broken again. So the gearbox the mounting point on the gearbox is completely gone, so it's the end of the race for us.
The number 204 Vortex V8 is out of the race. Damage sustained at the beginning of the race has taken its toll, but not everyone who had issues early on have lost their podium positions.
It's not quite worked out so far for us. 2 incidents which has caused us damage to the suspension, which lost 30 minutes each time fixing the car, but we're in P3. It'll be the first time we've actually, fingers crossed, finished P3. It's either a win or a DNF, type thing. So yeah, fingers crossed we can still take the checkered flag and take a podium finish.
Creventic organised Endurance Series have a following of many teams who've been coming to the 24-hour Endurance Series powered by Hankook for many years now. They know what to expect. Exciting races at special tracks. They're accustomed to the friendly atmosphere and the battles right through the field. But what's it like for a first-time competitor?
It was my debut in long-distance races. I'm very happy. It was very hard 2 days for me. My team is on the first position. It's only 10 minutes to finish, and I hope that we will win this race.
The 963 Lamborghini of GRT Grasser Racing Team holding on to its podium position, but someone needs to tell Christoph Lenz this is not rallycross. Just a short sprint to the finish left. Moving into the last lap, and still not all cars managing to stay completely on track. Some of the teams pushing so hard even at this late stage. You're here to race, so you will race. And drama on the final lap as the Porsche Lorient number 64 crawls into the pit lane and loses the SP2 class lead. And after 12 hours of racing through the Spielberg Hills, the checkered flag is out for Daniel Allemann in the 911 Herberth Motorsport Porsche. pit lane is filling up with teams and spectators. 7 classes, so 7 presentations, and of course, the overall podium. At the end of a hard-fought and exciting weekend of motorsport, the BRM Chronographs Trophy and the champagne go to overall winner Herbert Motorsport. 415 laps under the belt of the 911 Porsche. Second, the 963 Lamborghini of GRT Grasser Racing Team. GP Extreme third overall with their Renault RS01 number 27. The A6 Pro class is the same as the overall winner, the 911 Herbert Motorsport. And in the other classes, the GRT Grasser number 963 wins the A6 AM class from second overall. Pro Sport Performance takes home the win in the 991 class with the number 85. SP2 trophies will go to France with the 35 B2F competition team. In SP3 GT4, the Audi of Besserplas will take home the victory. The brand new Team Ultran Peugeot 308 claims the top step of the TCR class podium. And the A2 class winner is the 150 Seat Leon of Pfizer Racing Team. This endurance series has been a totally new experience for some of the drivers. As they look back, the response is very positive.
First endurance race today, and they did a great job. So we try to develop then further, perhaps 24 hours Barcelona, and we will stay on the throttle.
We are really happy. We have problems with the car, but what's problem with the car was not problem with the series, not problem with the track, no? And we want to continue. We want to try in Imola with the same car, and also with the other car, with the LMP3. We want to participate. I think the first race we are going to do is in Paul Ricard.
No time to rest though, and hopefully we'll see you at a race before the end of the season.
The next race we have is the Hankook 12H of Magny-Cours, the second round of the TCE series. And the next 24H series race is the Hankook 24H of Circuit Paul Ricard.
After a weekend of battling on the circuit, the Red Bull Ring returns to tranquility. Competition on track and in the pit lane. We say grüß Gott to the people of Austria and move on to the next race in the 24-hour series, the Hankook 24 Hours of Paul Ricard. Come and join us the first weekend of May as a spectator, better still as a competitor. For more information, go to www.24hseries.com. See you next time.